All right, folks, welcome to episode 62 of Biomassed. And tonight we've got two reigning intercontinental heavyweight champions of the Dust world that are going to do battle tonight for the role of CPM2. The erstwhile video game politicians, Pokey Draven and Zarya. So, on to the show for the rest of the folks. Since we're all going to be doing basically wrestling promos all night long, this is going to be beautiful. They just don't know it yet. They just found out that we're doing this as part of the show. It's a beautiful thing. It's all about dynamic gameplay. So with that, we're going to go ahead and start out with some intros. And we do have a couple new people on, or at least one new guy, and then one guy who's coming back for his second round, which means we didn't totally scare him off. Now, we will start at in a very odd spot since we have an odd crowd here tonight in terms of mixed folks. So we're going to lead off with the one and only middle of the list, Sarai Zell.
Hi, I'm Sarai Zell, a member of CPM1 and a co-host here on the show.
Awesome. And Pokey.
Pokey Draven from OSG Planetary Operations. I'm a co-host here on the show. I write for the podcast or for the blog, and I am running for CPM2.
Yep, his name is the Running Man because he's running late and he's running for the CPM and he's running from Zarya. It's awesome.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Silver.
Silver Strike 44, member of Random Guns and Dust YouTuber.
Wicked good, dude. All right. Heracles Porsche.
Hi, everyone. This is Heracles Porsche. I'm an altaholic, YouTubeaholic for sure, and newly minted member of Random Guns.
And you've got the absolute best porn / awesome thug name that I've seen on Dust in a while. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, I thought that was pretty awesome. I totally thought that it was Zell trying to troll me when you emailed over. So it was pretty cool, man. We're really glad that you're on the show. We always like having new folks on.
It's really hilarious. My old name, like my name for my other character, Gildenlock, apparently, like this was like ages ago. I remember when I joined some corp on him, and there was like some person with like a similar sounding name. So this is like the second time in like Dust history that I've like just accidentally trolled the bejesus out of somebody just with my name alone.
All right, man. Well, you're going to fit in great here, so that's awesome. All right. So, Zarya, how about you do a quick intro for us?
Well, hi, I'm Zarya, CEO of Out of Heaven and CPM2 candidate.
Awesome. And let's see, folks. I am Jason Larison, the styling, profiling, LAV riding, dropship flying, kill stealing, logic rapping son of a gun. Woo! All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started with a little bit of a CPM update. So, Sarai Zell, go ahead and take it away and tell us nothing like you usually do, and then vanish from the podcast as per your normal method of operations.
You know, I just try not to talk over everybody. My voice is terrible. I've been in this show for 62 episodes. Everybody knows all of my opinions and thinks they're terrible. So it's just, how much do I actually have that I need to contribute on any given show? Whereas we get like new people in, like Silver Strike's been in 1 week before, and Heracles is new and stuff like that. So we let them talk. But anyway, so we did. We met with CCP Rotati and CCP Frame last week. We're supposed to, I think, have CCP Rouge in there, but we're gonna have to reschedule that. But it was just a kind of a general goodbye almost to CPM1 because we should be wrapping that up fairly shortly. We talked a little bit about what's coming up in Dust, and hopefully there will be public updates on that in the near future, and that's about it.
Alrighty. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a special surprise guest coming in. If you'll draw your attention over to the right stage, the one and only Lethal Lether.
That is the most epic announcement I've ever had. Apologies for being late, guys, but I am here.
That's right, folks. We've got the most electrifying man in all of sports electronic entertainment. He's here with us today, Lether. He's a ball of energy, and he is also a surprise, folks. If you haven't seen it yet, and we're going to talk about it later in the show, Lether is actually in a movie, and it's going to be coming up, and I guarantee probably everybody in Dust is going to see it. He is actually going to be in the Batman vs. Superman movie, if you didn't know that. And we're going to we'll talk a little bit about that. It's pretty cool having an actual Hollywood celeb here in the podcast with us, so this should be pretty good. All right, folks, now that we've got the CPM update out of the way, what we would like to do is go ahead and hop into our CPM2 round of interviews. And tonight we've got Pokey Draven and we've got Zarya, who's going to be with us. We're going to start off with Pokey. And again, this is kind of an opportunity, a short segment where we let everybody hear a little bit about them personally and about why they want to be a CPM candidate. And these are usually pretty fun. We have go into a little bit of a deep dive about what they bring to the table as a CPM and sort of what their vision is. So, without further ado, we're going to bring up Pokey Draven. Just go ahead and step up to the plate, Pokey. If you could do us a little bit of favor, tell us a little bit about yourself outside of Dust and outside of Biomassed, if you don't mind.
Sure. So I'm a 27-year-old guy. I live in Arizona. I'm a designer at a solar panel company, so I do all the drawings for solar panels on residential projects, and we do all the design and the electrical work, and then we send people out and install it. So it's pretty cool stuff. For my recreational life, I play a lot of video games, probably more than I should, but I like to hop around different genres and styles. I've been playing a lot of Dust and Final Fantasy XIV lately. It's a nice way to relax. My job is pretty stressful, so it's good to kind of decompress at the end of the day and get lost in a typically fantasy or sci-fi world.
Is it true that your favorite book is 50 Shades of Tentacle?
Yes, but the sequel is going to be much better.
All right, brother. So now you have obviously been a co-host here on Biomassed from the get-go, and you did run for CPM1 a year ago. I think you came over from MAG originally, and then you were here, I think, as early as open beta, correct?
Closed beta, actually. I came in at the E3 closed beta event. I played Slay, and I think it's probably one of the first people to actually get in from the Slay codes there. So I got in that way, and then I farmed some codes and got a code for my EVE account, and I kind of passed it around the corp and whatnot. But yeah, I've been around for, it's been over 2 years now, I think, since that time.
Yeah, easily. So let's kind of dive right into it. So if you could, just tell us a little bit about why you want to be on the Council of Planetary Management, aka the CPM.
Well, I've been around doing this probably longer than I should have, but I'm pretty well invested at this point. I like to think I've got a pretty good head on my shoulders in terms of design and rational, vision on a lot of things. So, I'm pretty good at a lot of the stuff we've seen recently, especially with Rattati taking the reins with balance and whatnot, and seeing the big picture. So in that regard, I think I would actually do quite well. I've actually kind of grown to love the community quite a bit over the past year or so since Rattati took over, and it's been a real joy to start working with people, and I would love to do so on a deeper level, because I think that it's really great to see people kind of coming out of the woodwork. I mean, every once in a while I'll see someone I've never even heard of come out with this brilliant idea. An example would be like the power core that we talked about a few weeks back, and it was like, I've never even heard of this guy, but that's awesome. And so collecting that kind of feedback is something I've really grown to enjoy, and I do love it. So I would like to take that to the next level and hopefully be able to do it in a more official capacity in terms of the community and CCP.
Okay, now that's pretty cool, man. And you obviously have a reputation for being a bit of a spreadsheet ninja or / data ninja here amongst the Dust community. I think going all the way back to as early as 18 months ago, I think was the first time I saw some of your work. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the major things that you've proposed to directly to CCP or through the CPM in terms of some of the data builds that you've done? Like what are the one or two things that you're probably most proud of in terms of your your projects that you've laid on for Dust?
Well, probably the most recent one that I really dug my heels into was the vehicle rebuild. It didn't quite go exactly as I would have liked, but I think things went in a really good direction. I was very involved with that project. Probably more than I should have been. It was a pretty intense conversation from a lot of different directions, but I did a lot of work with that. I worked with a lot of people in crunching numbers and getting things to be in a way which hopefully will eventually evolve into something that works really quite well. I've also done extensive work with suit design in terms of slots, resource management, that sort of thing. I was very pleased with the 1.2 update because pretty much all of the stuff that I wanted to see that I did work on, pretty much it was exactly what 1.2 was. So, I was very pleased with that. I like to think that my input was a part of that. So, that was really cool. But yeah, I mean, it's in terms of in data management. I was involved with the PC rebuild. I probably not as extensively as like Zarya was, but I looked over some of the spreadsheets for Ratati and just tried to figure out if it all made sense and if what a bit of a sanity check. So that was a lot of fun. The way he does spreadsheets is a little different from me, but it was good to kind of dig in there.
Well, he is Icelandic, so
he's Icelandic and he's a finance guy, so community presentation is not exactly his forte. But he actually does some pretty cool stuff with the sheets and whatnot. So I did enjoy that.
I mean, I would say he's got incredible communication skills, and his ability to size up the player base is incredible. I mean, he identified you as a little shit right out of the gate.
It's true. It's true. His judgment of character is spot on. It's just his spreadsheets need a little more color and polish, but the guy knows what he's talking about.
If he could put spreadsheets together with more angles and lines that go into directions that nobody can understand, I think it would just top things off for us.
It is fun though to pick them up and go, wow, what the hell were you thinking? And then when you actually do figure it out, it's actually pretty enjoyable to see what's coming up with.
It's literally like watching an abstract painting. I fully understand that.
Absolutely.
At some point, the light goes off. You're like, oh, holy shit, that's like a rose. Okay.
Yeah.
So a little bit about you in game. You are the CEO and the proprietor of OSG Planetary Operations at Dust Corp. So you're a longtime CEO. You've got some PC experience. What kind of stuff do you like to play in game when you're just rolling solo in a small group? Like, what are the roles or the racial types that you enjoy playing the most?
I do a little bit of everything. I like to switch around depending on the situation, but I have to say, especially with the recent changes to the suits, I've really grown absolutely in love with the commandos. I think that they've become really fantastic. So I've been rolling with the Mimitar and the Galenta commando a lot, and I would say that's probably my favorite playstyle right now. But I do like to hop around and try different things and try to get a feel, because I don't like to comment on things that I see in the forums unless I've actually tried it myself. So I do like to be a bit of a jack of all trades, but yeah.
Well, I think that's pretty interesting, and I think there's a few other folks that are directors or officers in their course that are running, but I think you might be one of the few actual CEOs, full proprietors of a corp. So I did have one question for you on that, in terms of like where you see things going in terms of the direction for corps and alliances. Are you happy with what they're doing so far, or do you think that there's going to need to be some significant refreshes as we move into the kind of the next phase of Dust, particularly with the new PC dropping soon?
Well, I think especially with PC dropping, having a proper alliance support for Dust is absolutely essential. You can't actually join an alliance through the Dust client, which means that you have to have somebody on the Eve side that actually has a tune that they can actually use to join, and that makes things really difficult. The corp management tools are still pretty terrible. I maintain an Eve character solely to run the corporation because it's such a pain to do it through the Dust client. So I think particularly, like I said, with PC, where you're hopefully having more interaction between Eve and you're dropping orbitals and whatnot and running logistics like that, you really need to amp up that accessibility in terms of the Dust client and letting people actually access the tools that are available to Eve people, because they are really essential. Because for those of you who haven't actually tried to do anything on the corporate level through the Dust client, it is like pulling teeth. I mean, I actually don't really play Eve that much anymore, but I still pay for the tune because it's worth it to me to have those enhanced tools. And I think that we need to bring some of that to Dust so I can hopefully cancel my Eve account.
Okay, well, that's fair. And since we're on the corporate note, can you talk to me a little bit about how you try to overcome your communistic tendencies and your desire to tax your player base inside your corp until they literally crack from the weight of oppression?
Well, it's really simple. You basically ramp up the taxes to 100% and you let it sit there for a couple weeks, and then you lower them by 10%. So you're sitting at like a cool 90, and they think that you're doing something great for them, but you're still actually pulling in pretty good revenue. So it's worked pretty well for me, I think.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sure me and Cross are going to see you about that shit here soon.
You know what? I give you guys good medical care, so it's all right.
Be careful if you go to FanFest, man. Cross and Jay will be there. They'll get you.
I would love to meet you guys in person.
That's how regime changes happen. Is the leader goes out in public and they don't make it back.
I'll find myself in an Icelandic alley, and there'll be a "Welcome to New Eden" as the golf club hits my kneecap, and I go blank.
Well, no, yeah. I mean, generally, I kind of work off of the sub-Saharan African model of if there's going to be a coup, it's got to be before 2. So anytime I was around Africa, as long as once you hit about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Basically, people were like, fuck it, let's go drink. We're going to do something else, because they were already had other things in their agenda. So as long as you could get past, the morning and lunchtime and there was no coup occurring, you're fine. So no coup before 2, you're good. Now, anything after that, it's a little shady. So, so I guess a couple other questions that I wanted to lay out for you. One of the things that is obviously out there that it's not really even an elephant in the room. It's just something everybody understands. That Dust eventually is going to need to migrate somewhere else or do something else, or it's literally going to die for real this time. So what are your thoughts on hopping into the PS4 or the PC? Do you have a preference, or what do you think sort of the down the road needs to be for Dust in terms of what would best serve the player base, perhaps, and then maybe what would best serve CCP, acknowledging both may not be the same?
Yeah, I mean that's a real tricky question. I mean, for me personally, I have both, so it doesn't really matter to me as a singular player. But I think that it's a really tough situation because I mean, obviously CCP is very familiar with the PC. They've been developing on it for 11 plus years now, and so I think that in terms of development potential, they're going to be most comfortable on the PC. That being said, the player base, while small, is gone through and stuck with this game through a lot of shit. And I think to jump to PC would be really bad. I think it would definitely be an abandonment of a lot of the player base. And that's not to say that a lot of the current players wouldn't have an issue going to PC. I think that you probably have a lot of PC players out there. But I mean, it will cause rift. And I would really hate to see that. I think that would be terrible because there are a lot of really great people out there. I mean, I know you yourself are not a PC player. And it would obviously really suck to have the game move in a direction where you would be unable to play it, basically. So, I mean, for me, ideally, I think that it would be best for the game if it could be on both. And I think that would certainly offer up, regardless of what order that happens in. But I think if it was supported on both, that would probably be best, in my personal opinion. Now, I mean, it's important to understand that CCP is going to approach this from an entirely business standpoint. So, my opinion is pretty irrelevant, and they're going to do what works best for them. And I hope that it's going to be both. I think that would be great. But I mean, people have to understand that they're going to make a hard choice, and some people make it screwed, and it sucks. But that's just kind of a hard truth we might have to accept. So I mean, it's unfortunate, but I hope for the best. Is really the end of it.
Okay, well, and I appreciate that. So, kind of the last thing I'd sort of like to close with before we kind of give you a little bit of time for your inner monologue to become an external monologue, and kind of give us your Hamlet pitch on why you should be the CPM. I'd like to kind of go through a very quick lightning round. So I'll give you a quick question with a couple of options, and you give us your gut reaction to it, and then we'll kind of cycle through a few of those, and then we'll kind of leave you a little bit of open mic time. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. You ready?
Yep.
Batman or Superman?
Batman.
Okay. All right. You successfully passed that test. Rail rifle or combat rifle?
Combat rifle.
You failed.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Shields or armor?
I tend to prefer armor. I run Galente, though, because I like a little mix of both.
Okay. All right. So you dual tank, and that's a sin. Very well.
I know. I'm a bastard. I get it.
Who are the 2 players on the Dust forums that you can most count on for solid advice and information?
That would be Jason Larson and Cross2.
Okay, you've passed that one as well. Who are the 2 players on the Dust forums that you can least count on for productive advice and or commentary?
Sarizel and Sarizel.
Oh, excellent. That's good. So one of my final wrap-ups here. Of all of the CPM2 candidates, what are your true thoughts on Kane Sparrow?
I think it's great that he's running again. It's probably going to be a rough path for him since he's got the whole DNS thing, haunting him. But I think he'll be a good contender. It'll be really good to see how well he does, and I hope the best for him.
I don't like you people right now.
Oh God! All right, so more on to some more serious stuff. Paper or plastic?
Paper.
Okay, all right, I can work with you then. You're at least somewhere sound on the environmental picture. Okay, and name your single most favorite skin in all of Dust.
It's the Dead Sin skin. I mean, there's really no competition there. I mean, the rest of the skins shouldn't even bother existing in comparison.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to drop the mic. I think we should probably elect Pokey by acclamation at this point. Okay, all right.
I'm not biased at all, I swear.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So we do appreciate you. I would say we appreciate you coming on the show and being a good sport about it, but you're always kind of here, and you kind
You're
of have
here
to be.
anyways.
Yeah, I don't really have a choice. They forced me to come.
So it's and that's okay too. But seriously, I do appreciate you taking a minute to kind of let folks know kind of who you are and where you stand on a few different things. So what we'd like to do, like we do with all the CPM2 wannabe hopefuls, I'll give you a little bit of time if you can give about a kind of 30-second to 1 minute kind of pitch on why you think you would be a good representative for the community and a good value add for CCP as well as a CPM2 member.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I like to think I'm a pretty rational guy. I react very well to people who can offer up very rational and well thought out feedback. I don't like people who are emotionally driven and screaming and demanding things. It's bad feedback. But if you're the kind of person that likes to offer up, good, well thought out feedback that's going to actually be useful for something, I would love to talk to you. I think I do a pretty good job representing you because that's the kind of feedback I like. That's the kind of feedback I like to give. And yeah, I think I've got the experience and the technical know-how to really represent the game and help it continue moving in a good direction. So vote for me, please. Thank you.
Well, yeah, and we do appreciate you coming on. And before we bring Zari up, my last piece of advice, if you would level up your shit factor to 5 instead of 2, you would stop being a little shit and be a big shit.
I'm working on it.
All right, folks, we're going to transition over to Zarya. And she is also a longtime Dust player and a corp leader as well. And we've had her on the show quite a few times, and we thought it would be really cool if we could go ahead and have her on one of our final shows here, at least before I take off, and we turn the interviewing reins over to somebody else. So Zarya, if you don't mind, could you give us a little bit of intro to yourself beyond Dust? Like, what are you a little bit in the real world, so to speak, and maybe other games that you play?
What am I in real world? Boring, mostly. That's I really don't know what to say.
Okay.
I'm a geek. I'm a nerd. I play video games. I read. I'm a huge sci-fi and fantasy fan.
Sure.
I do music. I love live music. So those are the things I kind of gravitate around.
Okay. Now I'm going to guess by your incredibly subtle accent that you're somewhere on the European continent.
Yes, I'm in Finland. Been here my whole life.
Oh, excellent! The home of Angry Birds.
Well, obviously that is the thing we're known for. I mean, that's better than being known for the Dudesons, I guess. But
Well,
only
you are
slightly.
well known. You're well known for licorice candy, which, by the way, I actually have finished licorice candy like about 3 feet away from me. Believe it or not.
Well, I'm happy someone's eating it, so I don't have to.
Yeah, I was about to say that's not all it's cracked up to be.
No, not a fan.
Well, no, but it is pretty cool that I think you would be one of our non-North American candidates, and there's not too many of those out there. We started out with a non-North American CPM last year, and that didn't work out too well. And I think it would be really good if we could have some folks outside of the continental United States also on the council. So I do appreciate some other folks running, at least that would fill that bill.
Well, there's Danny at least. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's done a fine enough job. So we're not all failures. Well, I mean, well, okay. I'll take your cue on that. Carry on.
Okay, all right. So a little bit about you inside Dust. Do you mind telling us a little bit about the corp that you're running and sort of your history or your chops there for Dust? Like, what are you known for?
Well, yeah, I'll do a quick run up to how I actually ended up on Dust and how I ended up where I am right now.
Okay.
I'm not an FPS player. I mean, Dust is the first FPS that I've ever really gotten into. I wasn't really much of a gamer per se, as far as video games went, up until I got really into the Mass Effect series. I got introduced by a friend, and I basically took over his PlayStation, every time he let me to play that game, play Mass Effect 2 and then Mass Effect 3. And it was from the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer that I met some really cool people playing online, which I didn't actually expect was possible because, as far as I knew up until then, the internet was full of crazy people. That hasn't changed, really, but I mean, there's some crazy nice people as well. And the people I played that with got into the Dust beta and dragged me along with them. And I eventually realized that I needed to get my own PS3 because I actually wanted to, play Dust more than every couple of days. So that's how I ended up on Dust. Originally, I was during the beta, early open beta as well. I was in a really small corp of just a handful of friends who mostly knew each other from the Mass Effect days. But then that started to be not that active anymore, and I was meeting new people, so I kind of migrated over to a larger corp that was a little bit more active and had a little bit more. They wanted to go a little bit further, so I kind of, that as a stepping stone, I ended up in Seraphim Initiative. That was my first, so-called competitive corp. That's how I entered PC with them. So I've been in PC since the start. Been in a couple of big corps. Circumstances have led me to, had to look for a new home a couple of times. So I was in leadership in AE, then I was in team players for a while, until team players for the most part ended up retiring, even the ones that were still around after the tournament era. And now I'm in Outer Heaven. And don't actually ask me how I ended up being the CEO. Very complicated, but someone needed to take the reins, and here I am.
Okay, well, no, that's actually a pretty interesting journey, and you named off several kind of a who's who of upper level, sort of upper tier elite corps there. So even though you say that you're not really or weren't really a first person shooter, like you obviously have a certain amount of skill at the game, which I think is good. And the other thing that you do definitely bring to the table is a pretty serious history with PC. So I think that in and of itself gives you a lot of different things that you could talk about. Now, I did want to ask you a couple of questions. It's kind of well known that you are a Logi du jour in terms of your personal gameplay, but what are the other things that you enjoy doing in game outside of maybe Logi play?
Well, obviously, I've kind of branched out from just being a Logi, mainly because, more SP to spend on other things, gives you an opportunity to try different things. So I would say currently I spend at least as much time in an assault suit or a scout suit or a commando suit than I do in a Logi suit, simply because I choose what I'm doing based on what the circumstances are, how the game is going, or just what I feel like doing. So I think I have a fairly well-rounded approach to the game currently. So yeah, it depends on who I'm running with, what the squad is doing. If the squad doesn't need a support Logi, I'm mostly not going to bother with a support Logi. I'll do something else, like run around with a scout or an assault.
No, that's good. So I think we've got a really good picture of kind of you as a player right now. And I'd like to kind of transition over to kind of our normal question, which is, why do you want to be a CPM member?
Well, I think that the CPM is still an important part of the Dust community. I think the CPM can still help both CCP and the community as far as growing the game and keeping us all going is concerned. And because of that, and I thought I could be a productive member. That is really why I'm running. I want to see the game keep going. I want to see the game, move on to the next stage, wherever that is going. And if I can be one of the people helping it get there, whether it is as a CPM member or just as a member of the community, I just want to do my part.
Okay. No, I think that's a pretty good thing. Just your willingness to help out is something that's sorely needed, and bringing a certain level of experience and personal gameplay is good, and also your ability to communicate, I think, is pretty solid. I've seen you engage on the forums as well, and I've seen you engage in Skype numerous times and in game, and I've at least tacitly found you to be a pretty approachable person. So I'm kind of curious, what like other than probably just the Skype channels that we're in and things like that, like how can people get a hold of you? How would you like to reach out to the community? Would it be through the forums? Would you want to do YouTube, or kind of more personal, kind of open the squad finder up and then just like talk to players on a basis? How would you want to engage with the community?
Well, yeah, YouTube is definitely out for me. I don't have the hardware to, do a YouTube channel. So I mean, there are other people doing that. So I don't really feel the need to go into that.
Other
Um,
people.
Other people like
Other
Silver.
people.
I mean,
Hey.
better people than me for that purpose. Anyway,
No.
I'm available on Skype. I posted my Skype name in the candidate interview on Biomassed. I'll post that on the forums once the official candidate threads are available, or we can do those. So I can be poked through Skype in game. It's not that hard to send an in-game mail if you have a question, and if we need to take it to another forum for easier conversation, or just get me voiced up in a chat and tell me what the problem is, or what you want to talk about, or what sort of feedback you want to give me, or what feedback you want to give CCP. If I'm in a position to pass it along, I'll happily do it. But yeah, in game and Skype are probably the easiest. Forums are good for more general conversation with lots of people involved. If you want to specifically talk to me, the forums aren't necessarily the best place to, talk to me specifically. It's more of an open forum.
Okay. No, I think that's pretty cool. So I would like to kind of move over to a couple more kind of specific technical questions, and just kind of get your thoughts, or kind of where your head's at on some of these different topics in game, and that'll let folks kind of get a sensing round of kind of where you're at on some of these things. So a lot of discussion, obviously, about Warlords 1.2, which we're going to get into a little bit later in the show. But I'm kind of curious, what are the things that you think that CCP Rattati and the dev team have done over the last like 3 months or so that is most impactful to Dust? Like, what do you think is really touching the majority of the player base, no matter where they sit, from PC vet all the way down to new person?
Well, definitely the widest impact that I see is the changes to slot layouts. Obviously, the commandos getting that one slot, but more importantly, the uh, word can't think of the word.
Flattening?
Flattening. Thank you. Flattening the slot layouts across the tiers. I think that's a really, really big change. That's definitely going in the right direction, and that's the biggest impact that I've seen. Now, to be fair, as purely for the high-end PC players, they don't really care. But I mean, the majority of the community will definitely benefit from that. Definitely have already benefit from that. So I was really glad to finally see it get into game.
Okay. All right. So now I'm going to ask you just kind of a couple things. Like, do you have any like racial suits that you really, really prefer? Do you think that there's one that's clearly kind of your go-to?
I would have, maybe a year ago, I would have said Minmatar, but it's always been between Minmatar and Galente, really. My first suit was the Minmatar Logi, obviously, because that was the only Logi suit in the beta, and then I kept going with it once Uprising came out. But my second suit was a Galente suit, and it's kind of been, between those two. I've dabbled into Kaldari suits as well, but they just don't interest me as much. So it's a mix between Minmatar and Galente, really.
Okay. All right. That's pretty cool. So just a random question that you see, there's a lot of continued discussion about where light weapons are. And I know you're kind of a Logi player, so this is where I'm trying to tease out where your thoughts are on the lethality part of the first-person shooter. Where do you think the general racial light weapons are? Do you think they're balanced? Do you think there's tweaks that they need to make? And I'm not really trying to hold you to anything, just trying to get your general thoughts on it.
Well, I don't think they're necessarily at this moment balanced against each other as far as the different races are concerned. They've been in a much worse place than they are now. Historically, there have been worse times. There are some outliers currently that I think need to be looked at, but overall, they're fairly okay. I personally am of the opinion that time to kill in Dust is slightly too short, but that's as an average, not necessarily, two proto suits in a, 1v1 gunfight with rifles. That time to kill is fine, probably might be too long in some circumstances, but the average time to kill in the game is a little too low to my taste. But it's not something I am, too up in arms about, because it's in a decent place as far as the rifles are concerned, I think.
Okay. All right. No, I think that's pretty fair. All right. So, in generally, I did have one kind of big question for you that was kind of our last technical question, and we'll kind of move into the lightning round, similar to what we did with the Pokey. So, in terms of map design, and this is actually something that I've seen, episodically come up in the forums and in chats with folks in game. What do you think are the number one, or let's go, the top two issues with map design in Dust General, and the top two things that they get right? So too bad, too good, reference map design.
Shit. Okay, well, in general terms, I think the maps are a little bit, once again, word. Well, there's a lot of open areas to cross with not a lot of cover. I think I would like there to be more maps that have a little bit more variation in terrain that isn't like flat, and then, straight up to a hill. I'd like there to be a little bit more variation in the maps, so it's not a socket that's, indoors, CQC, and then just flat terrain around it. That's my main thing that I don't think where the map design is a little bit lacking in Dust. It's very uniform. So more variation would be nice. On the other hand, the more recent, the later additions, as far as particularly the outpost or the socket designs have gone, they've done a really good job of adding that variation. There's height differences. There's more entrances and exits. It's not just like, one door or one corridor. There's more things to do, but that's still very much concentrated as far as the large and medium sockets are, and there's very little that happens between them that isn't just covered by one rail rifle kind of looking into the distance and killing everything it sees.
No, I think that's pretty fair. And the reason I asked that question, General, is because it kind of also ties back to the light weapon discussion and your time to kill comments. It's the game in and of itself. I mean, it's really about closing into a very small space where the panels are, and then flipping the panels and holding them or taking them or whatever. Yeah. So you're driven to the CQC fight, and it's how do you get sort of a mixture of CQC and sort of open maneuver and things like that, so that you don't have mismatches in the weapons. Like, if you're in a CQC fight, plasma rifle works pretty good. If you're in an open environment, it doesn't, and then you can kind of go vice versa with some of the other ones.
Yeah, and I agree, and that's why I think there should be a little bit more variation, so it's not just the extremes. So if you're near the objective, CQC is the thing to go for, but if you're traveling between them, you need to have the longest ranges available to you. And I'd like there to be a little bit more variation. And like I said, some of the newer outposts have done a better job of, making the longer range weapons more relevant in those areas as well. But I don't think the opposite is true for the between them areas, really.
No, I think that's a very, very valid comment. It's kind of one of those things for me, is just you got to have enough points in the map so that people can play the style of game that they kind of want to play. So I do appreciate that. Now, let's go ahead and hop onto the lightning round, okay?
Okay.
Alrighty, here we go. Beer or wine?
Wine.
Red or white?
White.
Okay. Jaguar or Corvette?
As I'm not really into cars, I'll pick the cat.
Oh, that's a devastating blow. Of all of the hosts on Biomassed, who sucks the worst at Dust?
I haven't actually ever seen Soraya play, so it's really hard for me to judge
That should be an indicator.
fairly.
I'm really, really bad.
Yeah, so I'll take his word on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the corporate tax rate of Outer Heaven?
0%.
Do you have any room for lodges?
Always for my pros.
Frickin' turncoat.
Okay. All right. Summer or winter?
Summer.
Ooh. Okay. All right. I can kind of work with that.
Okay, summer here because it's temperate. It's moderate. It's
yeah.
mild.
Okay. All right. I knew you were
You've
going with
gotta-
that. Okay.
You've got to bear in mind the region here.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's fair enough. Okay. So, who's got a better haircut, Soraya or Cross?
Cross, obviously. I don't even know why
Thank
you're
you.
asking that.
No, I'm on a roll here. It's okay.
Okay,
Just
okay,
go with me.
okay.
Let's-
Go on.
Okay. Burst AR or the assault
Burst
rifle?
AR. Burst AR.
Yeah, going with the Glinte, huh? Okay. All right. So heavy or
that's
scout
my-
suit?
Scout suit, but I was just gonna say that's my most used weapon currently is the Burst AR, so that was a kind of a no-brainer.
Okay. All right. No, that's pretty legit. That's pretty legit. MagSec or SMG?
SMG because that's the one of those two that I've actually used.
Okay. Well, no, that's fair. All right. So I think we've kind of rounded out our lightning round real quick. And what I'd like to do is we're going to transition over and kind of give you a little bit of a soapbox where you can tell us whatever you want to tell us about why folks should vote for you as a CPM member. And we're going to give you about 30 seconds to 1 minute. Kind of just you can take your time. That's actually plenty of time to chat. So the floor is yours, Zarya, and let us know anything you want to know about why we should vote for you.
Well, I mean, you should definitely vote for me because Cross told you so. However, if that's not enough of a reason, I mean, there must be some people out there for whom that's not enough of a reason. I would like to be considered as, your CPM representative because of my conduct on the forums in the game. Just look at me, look at who I am, look at what I do. I really don't want to be voted in just because I'm a Logi or because I'm a PC player, and I wouldn't want to be not voted in just because of those two things either. I think those are just the window dressing. It's more about who's capable of actually discussing points, who's capable of conveying feedback and doing it in a way that actually works. And I think I'm capable of that. I've been told by other people that they think I'm capable of that. But in the end, I just want everyone to judge for themselves.
All right. Well, I tell you what, we sincerely appreciate you coming on and taking a little bit of time to do your CPM interview. And if you'll check out the biomass.com blog, folks, you'll also see her kind of blog version of an interview, slightly different format and some different questions than what you see here, as many of our folks do. But I tell you, it's always good that when people will actually care enough to hop on and then try to talk straight out to the folks out there in the gaming community about why they should represent you. So a big kudos to Zarya and big kudos to Pokey. I think definitely two of the better candidates we have in terms of their ability to express ideas, communicate written and verbally, and frankly, it really speaks well that we have some really high quality candidates that are still interested in supporting the game. So we appreciate Pokey and Zarya coming on. And now we are going to go ahead and hop onto more of the free-flowing gladiator pit style part of the show. We've got a couple things we're going to tee up for you. Primarily, we're going to talk a little bit about the Warlords 1.2 drop and sort of everybody's sort of general thoughts and impressions of Warlords 1.2, kind of the good, the bad, and the buggy. And then we're going to kind of move on to some more pop culture-y stuff and talk a little bit about the infamous San Diego Comic-Con. But before we do that, Sarai Zell, what did you think about the CPM2 interviews? It doesn't matter what you think, jabroni. All right.
You line that up there. Okay, I get it.
You got to work with me, man. I've been watching a lot of wrestling promos lately. It's okay.
I can tell. I get that impression.
Oh yeah, brother. So let's go ahead and hop right into Warlords 1.2, guys. What do you think? What do you think? How's it working out for you? I hear that the slot layout thing is actually working out pretty good. Some concerns with the Apex suits. A little bit of this, that, and the other. I know there's been some humorous bugs going on, but just generally, guys, what do you think?
I like it.
We should
Okay.
have 30 seconds of random insults for the various small broken things in the progression system, or else we'll get so sidetracked later.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. That's a fair shot. Lether, since you opened up the gate, go ahead. Give me your best.
Bad fits. The layout is just kind of weird and clearly, a little bit broken. That's all I got, but I figure everyone probably has something. And if we don't consolidate it, it'll be interesting.
Were you going to complain about the officer suits? They're currently bugged right now.
In what way?
They're all missing something. Like for instance, my Logi Bros is missing a high slot and a low slot. So basically, it's just exactly like a regular proto suit, but with more PG CPU.
They pretty much all defaulted to their equivalent proto suit slot layout. So the Ratati Assault, I think, is the only one that wasn't affected because it didn't have any extra highs or lows or equipment. It just had 2 light weapon slots, and it still has those 2 light weapon slots.
Anyone think it's weird Ratati got off, but everybody else got nipped?
I don't think it's weird. I think he's laughing his ass off.
The Ratatis did lose an equipment slot, actually.
Oh, it did? It had a second equipment slot? Yeah, see, I never used one of those. But it still has those 2 light weapon slots, so it's one of the least affected ones, I guess.
Yeah, well, they were all affected. I think the Scotsman didn't get any negative. I could be wrong. I think I think the Scotsman didn't lose anything.
I just have one thing to say. Would you guys like to buy an Apex Serpent Scout?
Oh my god, dude. So many people got scammed.
Can I buy that from Kane Escrow Service? The most trustworthy and completely non-scamming service in the entirety of time.
We can no longer trade it. I wonder why.
Yeah, well, people with those.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like
trading them
everybody
around
to know that
could
Kane
into
Sparrow is
issues.
the Bobby the Brain Heenan of Dust, just for the record.
But yeah, no, people knowingly messing with the suits that you can get for free because of the could get in some deep trouble. So don't mess with it.
So CCP screwing up a claim function gets other people in trouble. Gotcha.
Obviously,
it could. If you obviously know that it's a flaw and you're obviously exploiting it anyways, yeah, it can.
CCP doesn't create bugs; they just add features.
Well, the problem is people could have sunk either ISK or SP to get those things. I don't think you actually needed too much SP to get a hold of those 5 free Apex suits. But I mean, people could be out a certain amount of SP or 10 million, the 10 million ISK scam, whatever, and there's no way to get that back.
Yeah, well, but I mean, like, they have to do something about it because the problem is that if someone else paid real money for that suit and then you're getting it for free, then it's, the people who are they're paying customers are getting screwed, and obviously that's not okay.
Or crazy LP grinders like myself.
Yeah. So, yeah, it will get dealt with. They should end up removed, and people who are trying to hide them will probably lose them and lose other things. Like the ability to log into the game.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. CCP Ratati made it sound like it was going to be his personal mission to hunt down every single Serpent Scout.
I wouldn't put it past him, man. I wouldn't put it past him, man. When Ratati gets on an angle, he goes after it.
I don't doubt it.
My curious thing is going to be if people sold those suits off to somebody else, and then what happens? Like, does the suit then get disappeared, and then what happens to the ISK? Or because it's going to be a heck of a large task to go through and try to go and reverse a whole bunch of transactions.
Well, you know what's going to happen. They're not going to fix it. They don't have the capacity to fix it. It's not a question.
I wouldn't expect that people will get their ISK back if they bought a suit that was illegitimately gained.
Except the person who bought the suit obviously would not be aware of it, potentially.
Yeah, but it's that's just probably the way it's gonna happen. Would be my guess.
No, well, the problem with that is that the people who claimed them, and probably unless they were really, really slow on the uptake, knew that it was a glitch and they weren't supposed to actually get 5 of them for free and sold them. They'll lose the suits that they kept, but they'll keep the ISK that they sold them for. So they're still gaining from that.
Unless they get banned.
Yeah, except where's the EULA violation and them actually hitting a claim button that CCP put in the game?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess there may be some precedent in terms of the way Eve has handled exploit abuse before. I mean, arguably most game exploits that Eve has had in its history are exploits that you are technically capable of doing entirely within the game engine, but they've defined them as exploits and said you're not supposed to do this, and then if people are still doing them, they
And I would say probably 90% of the transactions that occurred for the Serpent suits probably occurred before any CCP communication was on the matter.
That's probably true, and I would hope that people who didn't know any better do not get banned. But I would caution people not to take the risk on screwing around with those suits at this point.
Well, they're
What if they just reversed all transfers of ISK to anybody who clearly was abusing it, and maybe they get a little bit screwed over, but it's better than having your account permabanned? Might be an interesting alternative.
Honestly, and this is a situation where CCP screwed up, so I think they kind of have to take the onus for it and not try to punish the players.
I kind of like it was clearly broken. Like there's a fine line here, and like I understand on the one hand where it's like, well, people didn't know. So that's why I'm thinking, hey, let's look into a way that it's going to hurt because you're going to lose ISK, and you might lose ISK that you had legitimately traded. But, they don't have the technical resources to reverse anything, and hurting people who bought the things and didn't know is worse in my book than someone sitting around hitting the claim button however many times. I don't actually know how this thing works right now.
You can only hit the claim button. You hit the claim button once, and then you get 5 suits. Honestly, what I would imagine that
just the point.
They're going to run a script, and then it's going to remove whatever residual suits are on whatever characters they ended up on. So, like, if you have a stack of 5 suits, they're probably going to go away. The only problem is CCP has run these types of scripts in the past and had very bad results from them.
Yeah, I'm expecting legitimate ones to disappear on the same, but when they do that,
I won't be surprised. Like that's like the issue isn't them vanishing, right? And we're just talking about fairness where ISK transfers occurred. I just think that I'd probably err on the side of trying to protect anybody who accidentally bought them, because they probably didn't know what was going on, as opposed to someone who maybe didn't hear anything when they were selling, and maybe, they get screwed over a little bit, but you're probably in major part hitting people who did know what was going on, more so than not. It's a shitty situation, so it's an imperfect solution, but sometimes that's kind of how it has to play.
Did anyone want to talk about the fun bug?
Nah, go ahead, man. Tee it up.
We had one day, which I wish I'd had more time with this bug, but we did have one day where, there's I think there were little things. There was a bunch of suits that had, I think there was one suit that had 2 sidearms. It was like Min Light had 2 sidearms, but the funnest one,
frame.
Yeah, that was weird. But the funnest one was when Scouts had 3 equipment slots.
Yeah, I totally enjoyed that. It was really nice having remote explosive on my running suit again.
Is that what you did? Did you have what 3 did you pick out?
Well, no, because I just my standard really fast speed scout is uplinks and a scanner because I use it in PC, and I was finally able to put a remote explosive on that as well. So it was fun getting people who don't check before they hack a point. It's just, it was satisfying.
That's always fun. So yeah, what I played with was I made up a bunch of different suits, but the only one I got any real number of time with was one that was basically just a logi. It was just what was it? I think it was just scanner reps. I think I already put my uplinks before that. But yeah, it was just it's basically just like a logi, and but it had Nova knives on the suit, so I was running in between a bunch of blueberries I would rep, and then they clearly weren't doing anything, so I would just like go and just like flank and then like Nova Knife kill and then run back and then be a Logi again. And I don't think I've ever had the chance to play the game that way before.
I can just hear the people who are frowning at us for, taking advantage of this. I can just
Obvious
hear
cheaters.
the.
There was the Militia Mimitar medium frame, which it had 2 or 3 I think it's 2 equipment slots. I think that might have been intended or something. It goes along with the frontline layout, and it also had 2 sidearms. So it's like 3 high, 3 low, light weapon, 2 sidearms, 2 equipment, and I don't know. I'm kind of a proto scrub, and I couldn't bear to put down my proto suit for very long. Yeah, make fun of me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tried up Militia Mimitar thing for like 1 life. So I know a bunch of people were having a party with it, but
Well,
anyways.
the 2 equipment slots, that's like the medium basic frames now have two equipment slots on all tiers because
That's actually a pretty good idea to give them some value.
Oh, and I also had the needle.
Well, yes, the needle is good. It's always good to get to stab people. First, you stab the raspberries with a knife, and then you know.
But yeah, the
stab-
weird thing is because every Logi's got 4, well, except the Amar has got 4 equipment slots now. So in a weird way, it looked like it might have, like, I didn't know for sure, but it looked like it could have been like a natural progression almost. Like, okay, scouts have 3 now, Logis have 4. So I was kind of freaking out that it was gonna stay that way.
I saw people trying to argue that on the forums, and I was like, yeah, no, that's going away. Just enjoy it while it lasts, but that's not staying.
So yeah, if anyone wants to see that bug, just do a YouTube search for my scout as a Logi.
We're gonna definitely have to take a look at that one.
It definitely sounds a lot more fun than the other one.
Yeah.
Anyone else
Actually,
find any others?
I think that's it for bugs. I'm not sure.
Did the Apex suits actually get slots? I mean,
Oh yeah, here's what happened with the Apex suits is their slot layout has all been updated to whatever the new proto slot layouts are, but CCP hasn't taken the time to fill in those extra slots. So if you're playing like an Apex Commando or something, you might have an empty slot and you're high or low or something.
That's what they've done. That's the thing that they done before as well is when they updated the assault layout. They didn't touch any of the pre-fit suits, so there have been plenty of suits running around with empty slots that were supposed to be filled pre-fits. So that's not new.
I was kind of curious which ones they actually took away because, like, I know on my my Kalaji Apex that they were going to drop a low slot. So I wonder, like, which ones did they drop?
I don't know. I've never played Kalaji.
Yeah, we don't have them memorized exactly. I mean, you can just hop on.
Who
check,
plays
you know,
Kalaji
though?
Well, Jay.
Heroes.
Yes.
How do you live with not having, I don't know, a good suit bonus?
Well, you don't live much because you're shield tank, and then it is pretty situational. Trust me, I have long been a proponent that the slot layouts, you can do all kind of shit with slot layouts, but the suit bonuses, particularly on the Logi suits and really suit bonuses on any suits, really what makes it work or not, and it sucks pretty bad. The hives are kind of situational, and the fact that they're kind of like where you drop them at your feet, they're just not as versatile as rep tools and scanners. It's the bottom line.
Yeah, not as mandatory as uplinks.
Yeah, I mean the reality is with the amount of carried amount of equipment that anybody like an assault suit can carry, it really devalues anything that's a droppable piece of equipment in terms of links and hives, particularly hives.
Yeah, uplink's still that Amar bonus to the speed of spawning in. That's still pretty worthwhile. It's not absolutely necessary or anything, but that's still decent bonus. But the nano hive one is just kind of who cares?
Well, the bandwidth is what makes us compete with assaults and stuff. Yeah, maybe they could drop down. Maybe they have lots of copies of equipment, whatever. But we're the ones who Logi are the ones who can field the most stuff still. By double, basically.
Yeah, sure, but I think the issue is if you look at what the value of the hive is, though. I mean, the reality is that not a lot of people straight up run out of ammo, like either between the amount of deaths that they're taking or the amount of raw hives that can be put on the field by any player. You could argue that probably something like the Allotech is maybe the most useful hive because it can do some repping and it can give you, deliver ammo. And a Wirakami, like in Truth in Lending, a Wirakami triage hive on a fully protoed out Cal-Logi, you can do some serious rep work with that. I mean, that those things are pretty cool, but they don't last very long. And also, as soon as you get popped, you start losing the bonus on that hive, even if the hive survives.
And yeah,
Oh,
then
does it
there's
work that way?
another.
Oh yeah.
There's
Oh, and
another.
sorry, I hate to keep cutting you off. Oh, there's also the bandwidth on nanohives, which I don't understand why it's why they're different on each tier and why it's 8. It's like 8 bandwidth on a proto
triage.
nanohive. Yeah.
On the triage.
Isn't it any proto? Or,
No,
I don't know.
it's
just the triage.
Triage hives, even the compact nano hives have an 8
Oh,
bandwidth.
right. But that's what made the triage nanohive go out of style, was using 8 bandwidth.
Well, if you're using it for your personal use, like if you're running an assault and you carry compacts, all you got to do is just drop it at your feet, let it rep or soak your ammo, and then you can keep moving.
And that's kind of part of the reason why the whole bandwidth issue really is irrelevant when it comes to hives as well, because while the Logi can have more of them active, generally speaking, if you are an assault suit running ammo, you drop the ammo when you need it or someone in your squad needs it, and then you move on. You really don't care if that hive gets popped when you drop the next one, because you've already moved on, and you also have so many of them carried that it's not really a problem anymore. So it's uplinks are the only ones that matter. The bandwidth matters for, because you want to keep them active rather than just the moment when you put it down. You actually want it to stay active. So even that devalues the Caldari Logi, having the bandwidth to have more of them down. It doesn't really matter.
I mean, one of the other things, and you guys touched on with the bandwidth comment, that they also need to look at is sort of the bandwidth cost per equipment of different types. I know Rattati has voiced a very logical reason of why he hates or has a displeasure for repping hives. I acknowledge that. However, if the uplink was the more valued piece of equipment, and it is, you would think that one would have the highest bandwidth cost. And then, and I know it's one of those where you can talk about lore and all this other jazz, but logically, something that's basically creating a teleportation, wormhole thingy would have a higher bandwidth usage than something that's basically a canister that lets a bunch of hives loose.
So
I'm
so
sorry,
let me...
fun before lore, because we don't want the game to get structured so it has less uplinks. I mean, I'm a big believer in more uplinks equals
this is the
fun
thing.
game.
Like they don't have good spawning design, so they lean on uplinks. So it's really dangerous to make uplinks more scarce. All the redline games that people complain about, it's hard to imagine that getting worse somehow, because the game has so many little pieces that add up to as many snowball matches as we get in pubs. Decreasing uplinks will definitely do that. Will unequivocally say that. You can go roast me later.
Because you can definitely see that effect in, particularly domination acquisition. Also is a good example, but it's not quite as awful. But in Dom, if you're not playing with so-called competitive players who know that they need to carry uplinks, you just don't have anywhere to spawn. You literally have nowhere to spawn unless you bring your own uplinks, because almost no one carries them, and then a lot of the lower tier suits just don't have the bandwidth for them anyway.
A PG CPU, I think, should be lowered on newbie uplinks. I mean, and spawn time. Like just make them more accessible to new players. Make them attractive to new players, so we don't, so we're not getting washed back to the red line if we have a whole bunch of new players.
We need other spawn mechanics though, in addition to uplinks. Though.
Yes, but if we can't get that, the uplinks, they're what we have now. There's something we can work with now, as opposed to hoping for new spawn mechanics. I mean.
So here's the question: How high do we prioritize trying to get new spawn mechanics? Because it could happen, right? If enough people wanted it. But the problem is, if we lower the uplink thing now, they will probably be more powerful than whatever reasonably even-handed new spawn mechanic might come in. And then on top of everything else, we've got to do the argument of revoking the previous uplink changes.
Isn't there a problem, right? I mean, I think they tried to do that when they put, I think they tried to make putting crews on vehicles a little easier. Like, I think the hope was that the dropship crew thing would take
Well,
over, but it just didn't take off. They didn't
they
implement it
still
right.
need to work on that because the bug with it not being visible still hasn't been fixed. The fact that there's only one tier of it, why would you use a 10-second crew if you have a 6-second uplink, a 3-second uplink from an Amarlogy next to it? And Lether, I agree with you in a sense, except for the fact that they have previously quite heavily nerfed uplinks without any sort of the game didn't end, people didn't, light fires simply because of that. They increased the spawn times drastically. They lowered spawn counts drastically. So I mean, it can be done even if they buff them or buff the lower tiers only for a certain time period. That doesn't mean that can't be reversed.
I don't necessarily disagree, and I'm more putting it out as a speculative point than necessarily saying that I enforce a conclusion. This is going to sound oddly political, but basically saying that let's fix it now by spamming more uplinks is kind of acceding the point that we're not going to be pushing new spawn mechanics as a big thing anytime soon.
I don't agree with the concept of it being spamming more uplinks, because right now the issue of it is, yes, in PC uplinks are used extensively. Proto uplinks are used extensively in PC and in some more of the more competitive faction warfare matches. But you go into pubs and a lot of the time there just aren't any. Or there's that 1 15-second link somewhere really random, and I mean
in the
that's
middle of the
mine.
road,
I always run stable.
Mhm.
I always run stable uplinks on my standard suit. I know people hate me,
and that's fine. But it's still that 1 15-second uplink is better than nothing if you're in a red line domination. However, the problem is that there's very few options. So when some douche puts that one uplink on a roof and the entire team spawns there, and then you're in a situation where you're redlined except you're sitting on a rooftop because that's where your team spawns, because that's their only option, and then they're just sitting on a rooftop doing nothing instead of sitting in the red line doing nothing.
Honestly,
I'd be willing to see it experimentally if they could look at that. I think it's hard to convey that. It'd be interesting to see if newer players actually catch on to the concept. I think that the uplinks themselves, of course, our new player experience is bad. They're not super well explained. They might be on some default fits, maybe not others. It'd definitely be interesting.
Look,
I don't think it'll solve redlining though, because I'm pretty sure that uplinks themselves not having good spawn protection, and when you combine that with the scanning that goes on right now, especially, but even in the past, you're right. Anytime an enemy in a redline scenario catches an uplink, since it's pinpoint and not protected, which it should be, it's a spawn beacon, right? But since it's like that, it's kind of irrelevant. In PC matches, people make good turnarounds with uplinks because they have like 3 people spamming them, and they spam them, so many of them, that it's just like nearly impossible to kill all of them. Push. So.
Once again, yeah, that's part of the picture, but I've always been more of a quality over quantity. While I agree with you that when it's a complete stomp match and the stomping team is just desperately trying to find something to kill, yes, one singular uplink being dropped doesn't necessarily mean that the game's going to get turned around. However, the one singular uplink that's put down way behind them while they're all sitting on the red line killing people who are trying to get out of the red line, and someone makes it past them and on the other side of the map, that can actually make a difference. However, that doesn't happen often enough. Now when it's not one uplink, it's 3 uplinks that are in different locations, you're starting to get a little bit more things going on. But I mean, the problem, like, uplinks aren't going to solve the issue we have currently with the way domination domination runs currently. Uplinks aren't going to change that. There's a lot of different things that would need to be worked on.
I just honestly, I hate how much this game comes down to uplink and uplink control. I really think that that spawn mechanics are something that's a major issue in terms of making this game have more fluidity and generally play better, because everything comes down to, especially on the higher levels. I mean, it's almost always about uplink control. Are your uplinks where they need to be? Are they getting cleared out? Are you being able to spawn in? Are you dropping more uplinks, or are you getting knocked out of the match?
But that's a question of the spawn mechanics in general being what they are. It would be awesome if they were better. It would be awesome if they would, be worked on. But is it really is it something that's doable? Is it something worth putting resources into? We can't know that, but I mean, is it actually doable? It would be nice.
Well, I mean, you got the portals out there, and that's something that can be explored. I think one of the downsides to it was that they were not conditional. So as they were just an object on the map, and they didn't have any kind of logic associated to them. Where, like, if this is occurring in the battlefield, then have portals. It was just have portals.
I mean, don't you have there's a. I mean, the problem with the other spawn locations like Cruise is that they're hard coded. As far as I know, they're hard coded into the maps, the locations. But then you have the domination, one of the domination maps where you start with 0 Cruise, and then they get periodically dropped down, and they get dropped down. Like if the objective is blue, they'll drop a red crew way behind, on your side of the map, and it's that's actually the only really dynamic domination match that I've ever seen, is because there's other alternatives than just uplinks on the point.
Well, I think if we could have other mechanics that replaced uplinks as a spawning mechanic, would be better off. I mean, this whole fire and forget uplink spam, it ends up that I think is a huge contributor to people camping on roofs, and you got people that drop uplinks, and then all of a sudden, I mean, you could have this with other spawning mechanics too, but you end up putting the heavies inside of a pen. If anyone spawned a heavy with the little railing around, you're probably familiar with that.
Oh yeah, I've been heavy trapped many times.
There's more dynamic ways to engage the game in terms of uplinks and spawn mechanics. And not only that, I think Lyther makes it a really important point. There's no way to get back from being redlined in a lot of cases, and I think it all ties into this big blob of a problem that we have in this game right now, which is the way we get into maps and the way we spawn into maps. Results in one-sided fights a lot of times, and not only that, it comes down to almost all of your tactics and all that stuff come down to, are you putting down your uplinks, are you destroying your enemies' uplinks?
The really one-sided matches are what you get in domination, and occasionally, not as much in acquisition, but definitely in domination. Pop skirmishes are much, much more balanced and factional. Yeah, if you're Q-syncing against a team of squads of 3 or 4 people and then randoms, it's going to be one-sided. That's just the way it goes, because that's the teams, not the maps. But I mean, domination is a good example of it not working, really.
I've seen some skirms that have been more often than not. I was seeing skirms that were pretty imbalanced, but I would attribute that more to player count in the match than anything.
Well, and one of the reasons that I've harped on spawning mechanics now for ages, and you all hate me for it, or something, probably, is that there's this big element of both the new player experience, and also I've been concerned about this for a long time, and it ties into the leaving the match thing. There's so many pieces and parts of the psychological effects that go into why people just bail out of dust matches so quickly. And I feel like a big contributor is the spawning system right now. Because when you look at that map and there is nothing there, how many of you can honestly say that you relish the opportunity to hop in your scout suit and try to plant an uplink in somewhere, knowing you're going to get gal scanned or something in 2 seconds after you drop it and get swarmed over? Like other games like Battlefield 3 I played a little bit of before Dust came out. And it had a way too wonky for a tactical game spawn system. They just let you spawn on anybody in your squad.
Yep.
And there are other games that have done that, and it's total cop out It's not tactical at all, but nobody ever had problems getting to the action. And I feel like Tiericide has been a great step forward for lessening one of these, the power divide problem that tends to develop in matches, where if you think you're losing, you degrade, and if someone thinks they're winning, they upgrade, and so you get this big gap in the equipment. So that's been repaired a little. So if now they could put better spawns in, then that means I could spawn in with my competitive suit in a better location.
Well, sorry, that just
In a
goes with
somewhat
my
safe
point
way.
of the Tiericide's been great, but that just right now, Tiericide, this is the perfect moment to cut down those basic uplink spawn times, and especially CP, PGU, like cut all that stuff down for new players. There doesn't need to be a 15-second uplink. Nobody wants to spawn on a 15-second uplink, and nobody wants to equip an militia uplink when it takes like 50-60% of your PG CPU. Like, cut all that way down and I know a lot of things need to be fixed with the spawning system, whatever, but bring the new players in that way.
Well, you know what? In equipment in general, the tiering of equipment is atrocious.
Horrendous.
I mean, like, what happened? We used to have standard gauge uplinks. We used to have flux links on every tier. We used to have all of getting rid of standard and advanced variants of equipment items that are present on the proto level has just made it to where it's like, okay, if you're running equipment, especially if you're a Logi or something, it's proto or nothing. What? You have standard stuff? Get away from me, and I think that's something that needs to be addressed, because I mean, I don't know, it just, you end up with just crap in terms of your choices for standard equipment.
I agree. I can't run not proto links and not proto reps anymore. Other stuff, it's negotiable, but
Well, the links you can kind of work around with. Mostly because if you're actually running links, oftentimes it won't matter what you're running, because you'll be like the only dude in the match running links.
Well,
The bigger, but writ large, equipment across the board it's pretty tough. It's the gap between standard. Well, really, standard advanced as one bucket versus proto is huge. And I like rep tools, unless you're running a fully maxed out min logi, there's no rep tool that you're going to mount up that's less than proto level that's worth a damn.
Something I really think that they should consider with the uplinks that actually would make it, and maybe even equipment in general, especially with this bandwidth mechanic that we have now, I think the max active thing just needs to go out the window. And it needs to just be, think about, especially if you're a Logi player, how many times you say, okay, this is my, let's say if you're running advanced, like, this is my suit with P13 uplinks. This is my suit with Flux uplinks.
Yep.
This is my suit with R9 uplinks. Okay, if I spawn in this suit, now I need to spawn this suit to make sure that I don't kill this uplink, because I can only have, what they need to do is they need to scrub all of this max active stuff. They need to say, okay, we've gotten bandwidth. Let's embrace this bandwidth idea and say, you could throw down as many uplinks as you want until you hit your bandwidth, or you could throw down as many of this as you want until you hit your bandwidth. Granted, that would make things like the gauged uplinks redundant, but I think that would be acceptable. Maybe even make stuff.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I wish they'd go that way.
You mean in terms of like switching to a different suit and maintaining it?
No, I mean in terms of forcing the whole suit switch. Like, let's say
I'm not following you.
Okay, let's simplify it. If I have let's say I have a Mar Logistics and I have 3 sets of R9 uplinks, I should be able to throw out 6 R9 uplinks, rather than one set of R9 uplinks canceling out the other R9 uplinks. Or better yet, I have one stack of R9 uplinks in one slot, and I can throw out as many R9 uplinks as I want until I hit my bandwidth cap.
I have
okay,
mixed...
so right,
Sorry,
there's
you go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. It doesn't matter. I was just clarifying. So you're just saying that they still do have that max active thing per pool that they've been running for a long
Per
time.
item.
No,
Yeah, I'm surprised that actually is still there. I don't
Just-
know
Of
why
course
didn't
it's still
notice
there.
it.
It hasn't been touched.
And it needs to be nuked, and by nuked you could just easily just say put the max active to like 30 for every item. Like that's like half a day of dev time, if even that. Of just basically say max active 32 or something, or whatever the maximum bandwidth is for a logi. And that would make it to where and only that, it would be a buff to logis to a certain extent. You wouldn't necessarily have to run the uplink suits. You wouldn't have to necessarily run like 5 freaking, you wouldn't have to run a whole rack of uplinks to be an uplink person. You could run just one uplink.
I'd be careful what you say when I hear this periodically, and it's really not a jab, but when people say something's a buff to logis, that's because they don't play it very often. Usually, that's not a buff.
Sorry, I want to cut in here before we lose the whole idea there. I just sort of have mixed feelings on what you proposed. I mean, generally, I am a fan of kind of simplifying any system, but at the same time, those of us who've played Logi and have kind of gone through the trouble of figuring out how to master, okay, how do I put all the uplinks on the field that I can? How do I get the most out of each individual uplink and my bandwidth and all that stuff? When you've put the trouble into mastering that, and then that's just kind of taken away from you, it makes you a less special logi. So I have trouble watching that stuff get undercut when you build up a skill and it just gets washed away.
I think that's just a non-argument. The thing is, you need to. It's something the bandwidth is put into place in order to prevent equipment spam, and I think it made the whole max active on equipment somewhat redundant. There's no reason that a logi shouldn't be able to carry an uplink, a hive, a needle, or an uplink, a hive, and a rep tool, or something like that, rather than having to be like R9 uplink and L11 flux uplink. I mean, if you're running standard tier, I mean, to me, forcing Logi players. I mean, I'm probably a Logi or a Scout 90% of the time. Forcing Logi players to have like a bazillion different fits just to maintaining uplinks. Okay, I got my Visium gauged here. Now I've got my Imperial Visium with the fast spawn timer on this suit, and then Imperial Visium with the normal spawn timer on that suit. So I'm going to spawn this suit first, and then it's just, what I'm saying is it adds a pain point to the players for not really any real tactical gain.
Okay. I tell you what, there's a lot of interesting stuff that we're kicking around right now. So kind of in the interest of time and being able to cover a little bit more ground, what I'd like to do is real quick, we'll start at the top of the list and work our way down. We're going to do a really, really fast. What's the best thing or the worst thing? Basically, the one thing that stands out about the Warlords 1.2, just from everybody real quick, and then we're going to bounce over to our last topic for the show. So, Heracles, we'll start with you. What's the biggest thing that stood out in your mind about the 1.2 uplink, or 1.2 patch, excuse me?
Well, there's being able to sell Apex suits. I think that's going to have a huge impact. I sold my first one for 40 million. I'm hoping to get more for a couple more that I want to sell, but I don't know. I should probably save that discussion for another show.
Okay. All right, brother. Kane, how about you, man?
I would have to say 8-man squads in Faction Warfare. It's a shame that it wasn't a 16-man team deploy. I think that would be even more of a boon. But we have a crew that jumpstarts Faction Warfare right after downtime, and we've actually started all 4 factions within an hour of downtime now.
That's interesting. Okay. Lether.
I'd say seeing the suit flattening and team deploy in the same patch and with PC changes. Those 3 things are both shocking to me and an enormous relief, because I've been complaining about both of them for at least the tier side and team deploy for like 2.5 years. It's like, I actually can't believe it's real.
Yeah, you're probably going to wake up from a dream. It's not. Okay. Zell?
I applied Quaif skins to literally every fit I have.
Okay. Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Truly excited that the skins are splitting from the VPOs and I can apply them to all the things. Everything will be pink.
Is it true that one of your alts is Liberace's Weasel? I'm pretty sure I've seen that on a kill board somewhere.
That's not true.
Okay. All right. Pokey?
Without a doubt, the flattening of slots. I think it's one of the best things that's happened to the game, so I'm really glad to see that.
Okay. Silver.
It's got to be the PC changes for me. There's still a lot of work that can be done just for the interface, just for all the mechanics, everything. Rating still needs to come about sometime, but the PC changes have to be my favorite thing so far.
All right. Good deal, Silver. Zarya?
Well, I don't want to repeat stuff that other people have already said, but I mean, specifically the command points thing I find to be interesting, and it's a really neat way of following who's actually active, and it gives people this competitive edge. I mean, at least in my corp, there's like, I need to get all my command points, so I'm at the top of the list. So it gives people a reason to play more, I guess, for now.
For now.
Okay. All right. So let's go to our last guest. All right. So what did you think for the Warlords 1.2 update? What do you think? Well, what I really think is that if you'll notice on the UI, is there's a contributions tab now, and what you can do basically, you can see how many command points people are making for their corp. You know, and it's really, really good. It's a powerful tool for corp CEOs. You know, and it's something that we've been looking at. I looked at a very similar formula when I was in California a few years ago. I mean, I was the governor there for a little while, but we were very interested in understanding how much people would contribute to the corporation or the government, as we were looking. And it's very interesting because it gives you some good meta gameplay, because what you can do is get an alt, or a spy into somebody's corporation. And what they can basically do, it's almost like Skynet, guys. They kind of look into your corporation. They can see who is doing the work, or where you need to apply pressure, or can they attack you or something like that. But it's one of those things. I'm incredibly happy that CCP was listening to my good friend Jadek Minheim, and they added the contributions tab. So I did want to give shout out to the contributions tab and CCP Retadi for that one. I would also like, Jay, he told me this was okay, but if you have not seen Terminator Genesis, I really would appreciate if you go check it out. It's we've had a lot of fun making that movie, and you'll notice there's like 15 Terminators all over the place with it. So please go check out Terminator Genesis and the contribution tab. All right, thanks a lot.
I really like that Arnold is supporting the LGBT community.
Hey, it's all good.
So we've seen the movie now, huh?
I've seen the movie. Yes.
I was
I'm
pleasantly
sorry, what just
surprised.
happened?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty decent. I mean, I know it had a few bad reviews, but I mean, when you go see a Terminator movie, to some degree, you already know what you're going to get there, and I think that they delivered fairly well.
It was a fun movie. If you take it, I mean, it was literally like an homage to all the other Terminator flicks, and it was actually, I thought, fairly well done. The plot is just full of holes left and right, but it was a fun movie to see.
They thankfully kind of said, "Oh, Terminator 3 and 4, whatever."
Yeah, pretty much. So on that note, as we move into probably one of the more interesting parts of the show, our non-dust related stuff, which we're going to go through kind of quick. So if you're interested in these kind of things, this is awesome. Continue to listen. If you're not interested in these kind of things, that's cool. Just continue to listen. It'll be fine. So there's this thing called, it's just like a little get together. I mean, it's a really, really kind of backwater kind of thing called the San Diego Comic-Con that's going on. And they've got like
I don't know what that is. Is that something that happens?
It is kind of a thing. It's usually a thing where people like you will go and hang out at. Let me put it that way. It's where people like me will just watch on YouTube instead of showing up and waiting in line 3 days to put their fake Spock ears on.
I want to know why there aren't more Dust 514 cosplayers.
Well, there's Denny Fleetfoot, and if you've ever seen him, he's probably the best representative sample that we have of Dust cosplayers.
I'm not familiar with him.
He's a member of our CPM. In fact, he was.
Well, that probably tells you how much he talks to people outside of his own little circle of like 5 or 6 people.
Full body draw boots. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, he does not have a figure for that either. Spandex and him not a good combination.
Oh, I'm just saying that's why it's so difficult. That's why we see so few.
I have to
it's
see that still.
like it's
Just the
such a
same.
Well, on the other hand, you could say we don't know what the clones look like inside the armor. So I mean,
I'm pretty sure that
so
they
what
don't look
we
like
should do is
that.
a T-shirt.
Pretty
I should
much.
get a T-shirt and just say,
Yeah.
"This is my gun," right?
Just wrap
Yep.
yourself in duct tape and say it's an Mimitar Scout drop suit.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty legit. Yeah, I'll buy that. I mean, actually, believe it or not, I thought the was that Neil Blomkamp movie with Matt Damon just came out like last year.
I actually agree with Sarai. I agree with Sarai's assessment.
No, I'm not saying it's good. All I'm saying is that does actually look like in my mind what Mimitar drop suits look like. Some dude with a bad haircut and like an exoskeleton and a t-shirt and jeans. So anyway, San Diego Comic-Con, there's been some interesting stuff that came out. So obviously, probably the four biggest pieces of news that came out that folks are in this circle probably fairly interested in. They did have the X-Men Apocalypse trailer, which apparently got a lot of people really liked, which was pretty cool. I didn't get to see any of that video. They've already ganked that one off the interwebs before I could find it. But apparently got very good reviews. They did have some more Star Wars Force Awakens news and a big panel and all that kind of stuff. I have not seen the videos on that one yet, so it should be kind of interesting. But the two that I thought were most interesting, and actually the two that I saw, one would be the Superman versus Batman trailer, like the full HD trailer. That thing is fucking bomber. It is going to be awesome. I was incredibly
Superman
impressed
v
by that.
Batman's going to be a terrible movie.
Hey, Soraya, could you go back to not paying attention to the podcast like you usually
No.
do? Because it
No,
really
I-
makes the show so
I
much
just
better for
decided I
everybody
can
else.
pay attention now because apparently I'm. So
Oh, wait.
basically,
I know why. Because we're not talking about Dust. Because God knows you don't
Exactly.
pay attention to Dust.
no. So I've been trying to figure out. I've been troubleshooting back that our website was down, and
Yeah, saw that.
so it looks like it should maybe be on its way back up. I'm actually getting it back now, so I think we're good. So now I can pay attention again, and Superman v Batman's just gonna be a terrible movie. I don't know why anybody would think otherwise.
Well, at the risk of opening up a can of Pink and Flurry Weasel whoop ass, why do you say that? I'm curious about that.
It's it's just not. It's the whole. It's the Man of Steel thing. It's so much for the sake of we're doing a gritty reboot for the sake of being gritty, not for like I don't see any quality in it. It just seems tacky. It just seems dull.
All right,
I don't know.
So at this point, just so everybody knows, we know that CCP Rashadi does listen to the podcast every once in a while. Usually when Zell's not talking is when he listens, but I think in this case he's probably going to make an exception. Right now, he's staring at his computer. He's got his headphones on, and he's giving you his best Christian Bale.
I know. I know. Rattati likes is looking forward to Superman v Batman. I think so.
This narration makes me feel super awkward. Like
No,
the format just sounded like that was opening up to, and he's doing his best Christian Bale impression.
No, well, I can just I could totally see him. He's like, Soraya's on Skype with him. Who do you think you are? I'm Radman. So it happens. Well, but he would have to say it in a very Viking-like accent.
I think you had too much caffeine today, Jay. What's up with all the accents today specifically? You're really going all out.
No, I'm actually just enjoying the show a bit. But anyway, the trailer itself, by the way,
Unlike
for those
most
of you who
weeks.
haven't seen it, well, you were quieter normally. That usually means my enjoyment for the show goes up. But
Well, that's
we can
why
get
you
past
enjoy
that.
this, because with the whole
He's-
CPM interview thing, I'm not allowed to talk for like half the
He's
show.
really, really enjoying the fact that he won't be doing it for a little while. So he's kind of like, looking forward to that.
He's stacking up all the impressions in advance.
I'm looking forward to listening to you try to run this show when I'm not here. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Hey, Zari, do you want to host the show for a few weeks?
That'd probably increase the quality of the show. That's no shit. On a related note, okay, I would like to say that they did actually officially release the HD version of the Batman vs Superman trailer. So whether you think you like it or not, that's okay. But I do recommend you check it out because it does, I think, at least look pretty good. And for the most of the free world, they also think it looks good. And we'll let Zell have his opinion, which he rightfully deserves. Not everybody will like the movie, but they're probably going to die lonely deaths anyway. That's fine. More importantly, though, and probably the news of the evening, they also had a screening of a Deadpool trailer. Well, it's not really a trailer; it's just more like cuts of footage because they certainly can't say the things that they say in that trailer on a trailer that you're going to see on TV. But it was, for lack of a better term, definitely rated R, hilarious, and it looked fucking incredible. I was incredibly impressed. They definitely hit the nail on the head with the character. Ryan Reynolds is absolutely hilarious as Deadpool. And anybody that can throw out the term chrome-plated cock gobbler and then get a laugh, you kind of hard to argue with that one. So that was your daily Deadpool from J-Pool. Is if you can find it on the interwebs, it's an incredible little cut of film, and if not, they're probably going to release it in HD in about a month and a half or so. So highly, highly recommended. And apparently that thing absolutely killed at Comic-Con, got huge reviews.
I had kind of mixed feelings about Ryan Reynolds being Deadpool, but I have to agree, it does look awesome.
Well, one of the this is probably one of the things that won't survive contact with a like a TV trailer. But one of the lines he has in there, they've got him like strapped down to a gurney. He's going into the little Weapon X facility where he's going to get created into Deadpool, basically. And the guy's like, we're going to make you better. We're going to make you almost like a superhero. And he's like, really? Well, like when you make my suit, don't make it green. And don't make it animated.
I saw
which
that.
thought
Yeah, that was
fucking
good.
hilarious.
I think that deserves to be in there. Him mocking himself makes
absolutely.
it somewhat forgivable, because that was a bad movie.
It was, and they definitely had a lot of fun with it. So I thought that was actually pretty slick on their part.
I do too. That's the only reason you can forgive him for being that bad a Green Lantern.
Well, yeah, the guy he's basically doing karaoke DMX while he's like slaying people with pistols and swords on the bridge too, which was not bad either.
You had to bear in mind with Green Lantern too is you can't blame a bad movie on like just a single person. When you put that much money and that much that many people into a project like that, it's generally a combination of an incredible number of failures. And I don't think any other actor could have made that movie a good movie either.
Yeah, that's true, but at the same time, there's some actors who are so great they can kind of rescue a film. Like Jurassic World was kind of a subpar movie, but Chris Pratt kind of rescues it.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I'll probably see it in a cheap theater or something, but I did hear that the only good thing about that movie was Chris Pratt.
It still made a shitload of money, though.
Oh,
well, so does every Transformers film, man.
Yeah, no, that's true.
I didn't like Jurassic World. I mean, the pretty dinosaurs were pretty, but like it had one too many wink plot holes. Nothing about it makes coherent sense from any like logic that doesn't occur in a dream, and it got to me eventually.
I stopped looking for coherent sense in a lot of things.
You didn't say anything when you talked about Terminator Genesis. Like, what's this?
I didn't watch Terminator Genesis.
All right. I don't know. Like Jurassic World, it's if you want to go see a dinosaur movie, like Jurassic. Anyway, I'm not gonna say it had an amazing plot, but I'm gonna say I enjoyed the movie. Just as Jay said he enjoyed Terminator Genesis.
Why would you want to see a movie about dinosaurs?
Why do you want to see a movie about Terminators? I mean, really, come on, guys.
I haven't seen either of them because I really don't.
I didn't. My family wanted to see it.
All right, so before we go too crazy, and since we brought Lether into the conversation, I've got to ask, man, what was it like working on the set of Batman versus Superman?
Like, if you've never been to a Hollywood studio, and first of all, the application is just awful. You're there for ages. They give you maybe a little bit of water. I brought coffee, and everybody was giving me weird looks that I had Starbucks. I guess I'm some sort of anti-hipster. Should have gone to the local shop in Hollywood or whatever. You get through that, and then you're on this set, and well, anyway, essentially, green duct tape can be the Minmatar Scout from now on, because that's what they had me wrapped up in. And
that's incredible. So in case you guys didn't know, Lether's real name is Jesse Eisenberg, and he will be playing Lex Luthor in the Batman vs. Superman movie. And if you don't believe me, listen to the clip, close your eyes, don't look at it, just listen to it, and then think of the voice that you just heard. It's Lether.
I believe.
I'm fairly confident that it is actually Lether. And I remember when I was watching that for the first time, when I saw that this morning, the first thing that popped in my mind was, is that Lether? Oh my God, he's Lex Luthor.
So wait,
I wish I had mental acuity to spin off one-liners like that.
Yeah, it was pretty good though.
Sorry, now I'm imagining Lex Luthor as a female, and it's not a bad image.
Well, he definitely has the hair in this iteration. So,
Ooh.
well, he's got like Prince Valiant hair in this one. So.
Ah, no, that's not good. No.
Nah, it works. Let's see what else they pop up here. If any of you guys are fans of the Arrow TV show, Stephen Amell came out in character in his new costume to put up the trailer. It's actually pretty cool. He really played up to the crowd. It was really fun.
Yeah, he's that show's really come along. I mean, I watched it in season 1 mostly to make fun of it because I thought it was really soap opery, but they really picked it up after that, and it's been a really good last 2 seasons.
Yep. No, I mean DC has struggled with movies quite a lot, but they do
DC
TV
can't
shows
movies.
pretty well.
They just can't with movies. But yeah, they're TV shows. It's the same actually. Two producers that have made Arrow and The Flash, and they're behind the Legends of Tomorrow series and the Supergirl series coming in the next year. And those people, they really, if DC wants to fix their movie franchise, fire everyone involved in it and just tell the TV people that you're making movies now too.
I like that DC officially made Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy a lesbian couple now.
I had not seen that.
Wait, what?
Apparently, there's a big Twitter storm about it.
I don't think that I haven't heard this before, but it just the whole thing. How do they explain that away? Her whole obsession with the Joker. I mean, I couldn't say that she's lesbian by definition.
The whole thing is that she's a heartbroken, and she's left the Joker, and then she's finding herself without the Joker. That's part of the plot of Harley Quinn. It's Harley Quinn after the Joker.
Okay, well, I would definitely have to see how that one kind of works out.
This is so deep, man.
Well, okay, so now that we've clearly jumped the shark at this point, although I had not caught up on that one. I will have to do some interweb researching. I think what we're going to need to do is actually probably guide this thing back down, and we're going to start to land the plane on this one. So what we're going to do is going to throw out some shout-outs. We'll start again at the top of the list and work our way down.
Can I...
Go ahead.
Okay, do you mind before that if I do a little promo on my YouTube, or would I be pinching too much?
No, go ahead.
That's what shout-outs are for.
Alright, shouting out myself. Desperate for your next Dust 514 video fix? I have just the place for you, boasting over 250 uploads in a 7-month period. Heracles Porsche YouTube has those special Dust 514 videos you just can't find anywhere else, like Gossip, the latest fashion trends in Apex Quafe skin modules, KTB rivalry videos, officer gear footage, planetary conquest footage, special event footage, and even Dust 514 music videos. Never be far from scratching that Dust 514 itch with the Heracles Porsche YouTube channel.
Okay. And yep, also one thing that you brought up, we may be looking for a sponsor for a burgeoning market that we found in Biomassed. So just prior to us coming on live on the show tonight, what we've determined that Dust needs, i.e. the video that Dust deserves, not the one it wants, is for us to live stream the one and the only Soraya Zell on Dust, and then the cast of the Biomass show sits around and goes Mystery Science Theater 3000 full bore and offers helpful advice, critiques even of Soraya's his aiming, his ability to move, and his ability to get wrecked, and his ability to get pwned, and his ability to generally being an impediment and large fucking boat anchor for anybody else on his team.
So, can we put him on one faction, and then can I get all my guys to get on the other side at the same time?
I don't think we're going to be able to make this thing any worse than it would be whether we monkeyed with it or not.
That's what the leave match button is literally built for.
Oh my goodness gracious. So anyway, as we move on down, Mr. Sparrow, anything for shout outs for you?
A shout out to actually Warlords 1.2, because this is a lot of things that people have been wanting to see for a long time. It's had some kind of hilarious bugs, but overall it seems to be going okay. And also to the Dust community for sticking it out with this game and continuing to play, and to Negative Feedback Alliance.
Okie dokie. Lether.
Yeah, I don't really have a good one cooked for this one. Shoutouts to the social justice warriors out there.
Oh, well played. Okay, yeah. By the way, all of you people that were throwing hate and stupidity on CCP Phoenix, fuck off. All right, Pokey, or correction, Zell.
Yeah, I'm gonna give my shout out to this random dude named Evan at HostGator for figuring out why my the biomass.net domain was randomly redirecting to some domain in Switzerland. It
Are you
appears
sure it
to be
wasn't
fixed.
Finland? I'm pretty sure that Zarya was jacked into the Matrix.
No,
when this
no,
was going on. Okay.
it was definitely Switzerland. They still really
Was there
didn't give me,
chocolate involved?
they didn't give me a real precise answer on how it happened, but I'm guessing that they don't want to share that for security reasons. But yeah, so our site's back up. Come visit our blog, see our stuff.
Alrighty, Pokey.
I'm gonna give a shout out to Satoru Iwata. That's the president of Nintendo. He unfortunately passed away today. So, shout out to his friends and family and fans. It's a real loss. I grew up with those games, and it's sad to see him go.
Okay. All right. Silver Strike.
All right. Shout out to Porsche because I couldn't get through saying what he just said in his shout out. That just seems impossible to me. Shout out to you, Jason, because the wrestling promos were great and I wanted more of them, but I didn't feel like asking for them because that would ruin it. And shout out to CPM candidate Darth Carbonite, who I keep telling to come on here and do CPM things, but his excuse today was he was too tired. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we can't have Darth on this podcast because then no one would want to listen to any of these other fuckers again. That voice.
That's true. That's really true.
All right. Zarya.
Well, I want to give a shout out to Ratati for rolling out this update and them finally getting on with the PC 2.0. It's a good start. Happy to have it. And also shout out to all my boys in OH, but particularly Richard for being generally awesome and French and awesome.
All right. So for shout outs, let me see. All right, to all my little Dustomaniacs, I want to tell you from the bottom of the Duster's heart. Let me tell you, brother, I see you. I see you out in the community. I see you typing up a storm. I see you getting slayed and slaying out in the matches. But I'm telling you, the only thing you can do is you just got to keep getting back in there. You got to eat your vitamins. You got to sweat. You got to lift them weights. You got to shoot that plasma rifle. And you got to keep going. And you got to fight. And you got to fight. And you got to claw your way to the top of the PC market, folks. And I'm telling you, if you just keep going one day, you too can match the 24-inch pythons, the massive assault HMGs called Thunder and Lightning of the one and the only Jason Larson.